Hi, welcome to my podcast, Becoming a Cut Flower Grower. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm here to share my year of growing and selling cut flowers. I'll be giving you the lowdown on everything I'm doing and sharing all the highs and lows, the good times and the inevitable disasters, all in real time. Join me on my cut flower journey, starting right now. Hello, thank you for joining me. Well, I've had a cold for the past few days, so I was going to start by apologising for how much I was sniffing on the last episode. And really, when I listened back to it, I thought, oh dear, that's pretty awful. And there were too many, I couldn't edit it out. But not long after the episode went live, I came down with a cold and I've been in bed for the last few days. So again, all those plans that I had, everything I was going to do in the greenhouse and all the seeds I was going to get sowing got completely thwarted. So all I managed to do was get out to the greenhouse and bring my pot of labels in to clean them ready to go. And I have yet to even manage to do that. And the only other thing I've done this week is watch the entire Meghan Markle series on Netflix, which, lover or hater, I've got a burning desire to make quiche now. So when I'm feeling like I want to eat something, I'm going to be getting in that kitchen and making some quiche. And the girl has got a point. We could do with eating a lot more fresh vegetables. And I think a house filled with freshly picked vegetables and fresh eggs and fresh flowers sounds like heaven on earth to me. Although how anyone can do that much cooking in that much beige and cream and not get a mark on them, I have no idea, because I can't even look at anything without getting filthy. So you join me today when I sound pretty awful, and I left you, I think, saying I was going to go off and read the David Austin catalogue again, which I did. And I've read it just, a couple of times since then. And what I've made is my top 10 fantasy David Austin list. So if somebody gave me, at £23 a bare root, I would need £230 plus postage for my top 10. But let me tell you what they are, because you may have gathered that I'm a pretty potty about roses, actually. And if I had my way, I'd have like a top-end rose growing business. But I am not that skilled. But it doesn't stop me dreaming. And I have a few David Austins of my own. And I've used them on planting jobs. And so one of my favourites is Roald Dahl, which, if you're familiar with David Austin roses, these are beautiful English roses that he's bred. So you get all the best points of like a hybrid tea, but with all the robustness of a more modern plant. So Roald Dahl, this is a yellowy one that I've got in my garden. It's like a pale yellow, and I absolutely love it. When I first got it, I just put it in a pot, and it did so well in its first year. And I thought, can't just leave it in a pot. Roses need to be in the ground. So I put it in the ground. Oh my goodness me, the second year it sulked. It did absolutely nothing. Barely flowered. Just was literally cursing me as I was walking past. But year 3 onwards, we are the bestest of friends. And last year, I think it was still flowering at the beginning of December. It had an incredibly long season. And it's an absolute trooper in my garden. Now I've got a James Galway as well, which is really, really lovely, really pretty pink, smells gorgeous. And I've got this growing up a wall. It's done very, very well. It's such a pretty plant. It's got like it's not even a double. I'm not sure exactly what the terminology is for it, but it's got a really dense flower head. So not great for pollinators, it has to be said, but still a very beautiful flower. And Princess Alexandra of Kent. Now I've got one of these as well. I actually need to move this lady this year. She's not getting enough sunshine. And she tries her absolute best. She's the most gorgeous shade of pink, but kind of like a strong pink. And the flower shape is just stunning. But she's not really enjoying herself there. Now, I've put number 1 on my list, Lady of Shalott. I'm not even really an orange kind of person, but This rose knocks my socks off every time I see it. And I went to an open garden a couple of years ago through my horticultural society, and the owner of this garden had planted probably about, I don't know, somewhere between 50 and 100 Lady of Shalott in one huge bed. And it was absolutely jaw-dropping. Like, it literally just took your breath away. The scale of it was incredible. And I have dreams of doing this kind of colour gradation thing where it kind of goes from yellows to stronger yellows to oranges over to pinks and purples and, oh god, sorry, excuse me, that's terrible, isn't it? If I don't manage to edit that out successfully, I apologise for that. And so I have this dream of doing this gorgeous sort of like a colour gradation thing, like a massive rainbow, and I think all the pilots and the helicopters and everything that goes over, they'd be looking down being like, wow, look at that, it's like a rainbow. Another one I put on my list was Danahu, and this is supposed to be a really good one for cutting with a strong fragrance. Pale, very pale, I don't know, pale off-white, apricot-y, super pale, looks absolutely stunning. Claire Austin, always gorgeous, always gorgeous. It's kind of, again, an off-white, like a cream. Looks absolutely stunning. I would love one of those. Constant Spry. Constant Spry, we've got that somewhere. I'm peering through the brochure at the same time as I'm talking to you, just to remind myself what's what. I'll have to come back to that. Wild Eve, oh my goodness. So Wild Eve is like one of these plants that's like a flowers, it's like a peony. So it's kind of lush and absolutely stuffed to the gills with petals in this kind of pale pink shade. It looks like a fantasy wedding flower, just like it's not even real. And next to it is Queen of Sweden, which is a very similar thing, only the shape of the cup is slightly different. But very similar thing, like you could just imagine great big piles of them. They're like, I almost just want to sort of dive into a whole great big pile of them. I'm just blown away with those. Now, Olivia Rose Austin is another very pale pink of that really super sort of dense, blousy petals, which looks very, very pretty. And so that is my top 10. I can't find Constant Spray anywhere to tell you about that. That's terrible, isn't it? I think I lost a few brain cells this week as well, as just, yeah, the will to live at some point. Dreadful. So that's my fantasy rose list. And if you are new to the David Austin roses, it's well worth just having a look on their website, just for some inspiration. I mean, the brochure's lovely, but the website has got some very helpful guidance on there about choosing how to choose your roses. Okay, welcome back. It is Friday afternoon. It's a beautiful, sunny, gorgeous, warm spring afternoon, and I'm feeling so much better. So I'm out in the greenhouse, and I'd love you to join me as I sow my first sweet peas. Right, well, I'm in the greenhouse. I have made it in here. I had a very quick tidy earlier on because it was full of a few remnants from over the winter. So today I'm going to get my sweet peas underway. Now, if you've listened to my previous episode about sweet peas, you'll know I got them from Roger Parsons, who's a fantastic sweet pea grower in the UK. And I got two varieties, White Swan and Sea Mist mixture rather. And I'm going to be growing them in toilet roll tubes. Now, I've been collecting loo roll tubes, the cardboard bit, for quite a while, and I'm somebody, to everybody's horror, that gets through an awful lot of toilet paper. And so I had a bag in the shed and a bag inside, and I have got a tray here full of 50 toilet rolls, which I kind of feel really guilty now that they're all laid out in front of me. But there we are. They're going to be recycled for a good cause. And what I've done is laid them all out quite close together, and they're sitting inside a green plastic tray, which has got drainage holes in the bottom. And I'm going to fill them all with compost, pop a seed in, and give them a very gentle water, and we're off. And what I'm hoping to do is plant them directly out in their little cardboard tubes. Although I have had issues in the past where the tubes just sort of disintegrate and you end up just with a complete pile of mush going out. So I'm not entirely sure how we get around that, but hopefully they won't all disintegrate. So I've got a bag of compost, multi-purpose compost. Now, I have also said on a previous occasion that I do a potting mixture that I make up. I don't buy seed compost because I don't like the stuff, and I think it's expensive for what it is because it's nearly always in tiny bags and they're always expensive. So I make my own mixture up, and I've actually got a huge, massive plastic tub that's about, I don't know, 2.5, 3 feet deep by about the same. And as I'm emptying pots and getting rid of things, storing bulbs, I just sort of throw all the old compost into this bin. And it just sort of loiters, and then when I need it for something, I can either just use it as it is or add fresh to it or add anything else that I want to add to it. But because I haven't really had a blitz of the garden because I've been away for February, the contents of that huge tub it's not particularly appealing at the moment, and it's got a few plants that I just overwintered very quickly in there. So I'm going to leave that for now, and today I'm going to just use straight 100% compost with nothing else mixed into it. And that's me just giving that compost a bit of a shake. And so I'm going to fill up these cardboard tubes. It does seem a little bit more of a time-consuming way of doing this because I think some of them are going to fall over. But the point with sweet peas is that you want to develop a really nice long root on them, and you don't want to disturb that root when they go out. So the benefit of putting them in these guys is that each seed is going to have one toilet roll, and they're going to go in here and then not be disturbed while they're getting themselves established. And I thought that would be preferable this year because I want to grow them individually up these fence panels that I've got. So I thought, well, if I start them all off on individually, then when it comes to planting them out, it means we don't have to disturb any of the roots too much, and they can just stay in their own little sections. And the reason I'm growing them the way I am is that I really want to get plants that aren't all tangled up together, because when you grow them at home, you plant them reasonably densely and they just twine up whatever they're growing up, and it doesn't really matter if the little what do you call it, the little twiny bits, the little things that they use to tie themselves on, doesn't really matter if they all join up with the ones next to them, because it's just your garden and the overall effect is still lots and lots of flowers. But when you're growing them for cut flowers, and again, I'm speaking like I know what I'm doing, but I have never grown them for cut flowers before, you want to have really nice long straight stems, and to get that effect you want them to not be attaching themselves to their neighbours. So by doing it this way, they'll all have a little home, they'll all have space for themselves, and when they come to be planted out, they're going to be tied individually up the wires of these fence panels that I've got, the fence panels that keep the chickens in and any predators out. And so I should be able to tie them in really nicely so that they just don't go hanging onto their neighbours and causing the stems to bend or twist, or the little ties just like affecting each other. Gosh, this is quite a fiddly process actually. There we go. So, oh dear. The trouble is, if you forget what you're doing and you pick one up to sort it out, the contents all falls out the bottom. So this is a little bit more fiddly, but that is looking kind of what I wanted. Oh, if you can hear that noise, that my compost is sitting on some old crockery that I'm going to give away to a charity that I found in a tip, and thought, well, that's far too good to give away, and then I didn't really need it, so I'm going to drop it off at one of the local charities for somebody that needs a dinner service. It sounds a lot posher than it is. It's just a whole load of white plates, and they're square ones. I quite like them actually, but I don't need any plates. I don't do very much entertaining. So, okay, I think that is pretty good. I'm probably going to turn the microphone off for a minute so I can just get them all nicely leveled and stuff, and I'll get back to you in a second. And now I'm going to pop a single seed into the top of each toilet roll. So that took me a little bit longer than I thought it did, because I started to move them around and then they all started to wobble, so I had to rearrange the whole thing. Now, Roger Parsons include germination guidance, like it's a double-sided piece of paper with some photos in with the seeds, and they say cover by no more than 1/4 inch or 5 millimeters of compost. So I've kind of left that amount of space at the top, and I'm going to pop one seed kind of centrally, although some of them are whizzing off to the side a little bit. And I'll just pop one of these in each one. Now, sea mist mixture is different shades of blues, starting I think with whites, and there's some mauves and some lilac-y colours in there. I think they're a special edition, they're a special mixture that they were doing this year, which I thought would be really lovely and tie in nicely with the kind of blues and whites and purples that the florist and I had talked about. And I love the thought that these guys are going to go, well, hopefully going to go to somebody's wedding this year. That would be amazing. I haven't been to a wedding for years. I guess in my 30s, a lot of my friends got married, and I felt like I was always going to weddings. And not so much now. Everybody's married with kids. So that is that. So I've got them all in, and I'm going to put a little bit of compost on the top. Now, the general rule with seeds is similar to bulbs. It's like you cover them with like 2 to 3 times the size of the seed. And in fact, some seeds don't like to be covered at all. Some of them need the light in order to germinate. So it's always worth checking on the packet just to be absolutely sure what you need to do. And obviously with the tiny seeds, they really don't need much compost to go on the top, because they're super fine, and if they get down too deep, they just never get going. So always check that out. Now, there are lots of video tutorials online about sowing seeds and sowing sweet peas, in fact. So if you've not done it before, it's probably worth watching a couple of videos just to get an idea of what to do. But it's pretty straightforward. It's not worth overthinking it. And I think the main thing is not to get them too wet afterwards. So they do say water them with a fine hose after, and then leave them. It says in the guidance there, compost should be kept slightly dry after the first watering, because what you don't want is any mold or fungus growing in them, and you don't want the seeds to rot. It does happen, generally speaking, if you've overwatered the compost and they're just sort of sitting, and of course there's no roots or anything at this stage to break up the compost, to force some air in. So where you've got seedlings and they've got their roots in, you can find that if you overwater them, sometimes you can salvage it by draining them and sitting them on like a rack or something, so you can get some air around, and often the roots will power through and kind of aerate the compost for you, and so the roots can get the oxygen they need. But if you overwater seeds, they have a tendency to just rot. So you have to get that balance exactly right. And I'm going to go off on a hunt for a fine hose. Right, now the final stage, and the important one, is labelling. So you must label at the time that you do the sowing. Don't think for 1 second that you will be able to come back even an hour later and remember what you've done where. So it's not crucial today because I've only done one tray of sweet peas and they're all the same variety, but even so, I'm going to stick a label in them, and I just label obviously the name of the plant, so sweet pea, and then the variety and the date that I have sown them, and we'll pop that label in there. Have a little tidy up because I've got compost all over the place, and that is those first batch of sweet peas done. So I will hopefully get the second batch done over the weekend, and in fact I've got probably another half a dozen seeds left in the packet, so I've sown exactly 50, and I'll probably sow these guys in a couple of days just to make sure that I'm happy with what I've done here rather than using the whole lot up. And then that will be me with the sweet peas, but I did say I was going to go and buy some more, and now I look at it, I do need to go and buy some more for my own garden actually, and I've only got 7 toilet rolls left, so I'd have to scavenge around for some more toilet rolls there, or grow the second batch in a different way and then compare the two. That might be interesting actually. Yeah, I'll probably do that. Right, so that is me, quick tidy in the greenhouse, and I'm all done. Well, that is me for today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I am going all Meghan Markle tonight. I am elevating the everyday with some items that I picked up at Waitrose after work, because Waitrose is next to the garden that I'm in. So I'm not really starting with the everyday, to be honest. It cost me an arm and a leg. But I hope it's worth it. I feel the need for some fresh, healthy food to restore my immune system. So I'm going to be elevating away this evening, and I'll let you know how that goes next week. Have a great weekend and enjoy the sunshine.